Okay, good evening, everyone. And my name is Bill Costaritas. And what I hope to do tonight is to talk about the markets at night because they are very different than the markets that trade during the day, even though you're trading the same contracts. I think most of us will all agree we're in a global marketplace and we're in a 24-hour marketplace, and this is just one aspect of it. But again, it is very different and how it operates and how it trades at night. It has a different set of rules, and I hope to clear up some of the mysteries, if you will, of the night market. Very interesting. I don't know if any of you have caught it. This ad runs on CNBC quite a bit here of late, and especially in the last month or so is when I first caught it. It's an ad. I think it's Interactive Brokers and a fellow sitting in a very nice looking restaurant, and his date, I assume his date or significant other, she walks in and she's well dressed and she sits down and says, "You'll have to excuse me a minute. I need to put some trades in." And he says, "I didn't know you could do that. I thought the markets were closed." And she says, "No, not at my broker." And that there's some kind of Russian news that Russia down a jet in the Middle East or somewhere. I'm not sure what the news item was, and markets are down dramatically, and she needs to put in some hedges, and he's just shocked. He didn't know there was such a market that you could even do that with. And of course, we've been doing this. Well, I've been doing it since inception. I don't think you'll meet very many people that have been involved with the Globex as long as I have. In fact, I was involved when it first started. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Globex or after hours market, but the technical term is the Globex, it was a creation of the CME, a joint venture by the CME and Reuters. And I had the good fortune of testing, if you will, some of the electronic equipment that was first being used. And as I was about to say, most of these trading platforms that you trade on originated from this Globex platform, which was the first electronic trading platform and is considered the grandfather of trading platforms as we know them today. So I guess that will tell you how long I've been around. And this is, we're going back to the early 1990s, late 1980s. The Globex was originally created to service currency traders and forex traders, if you will, because at night it was very slow. And I'm sure that the CME as an exchange found it was not a very profitable market. Excuse me. So they created this electronic platform. I guess they thought it would be more profitable rather than have, floor brokers sitting around all night. And that's how all this started. And you'll find it interesting. The original platform, if you will, the only way you could enter orders was through a Globex terminal, which cost a few $1,000s to purchase. And then you had, well, that's if you were approved by the futures exchange. Then it cost a few $1,000s to purchase the terminal and to get it set up. And then it was roughly about $1,000 a month to maintain this terminal. So in the early days, as you can see, it was quite different. You could only trade the big S&Ps, the bonds, and as I said earlier, the currencies. That was about all. Today, if you have a computer and you have a few $1,000s in an account, you can now access this market just like the big boys or the pros used to be able to. And you can trade just about any market you can possibly think of. And it's from the Nikkei in Japan, if you think that market has an opportunity, or the DAX in Germany, or the Hang Seng in China, and that's what we're going to talk a little bit about tonight. So if you'll hold some of your questions, I will stop along the way, and we'll take some of those questions and answer them as we go along. Yes, I used to be with DTI, and now we have our own independent trade room. We started out with Night Scalper, and now we have what I believe is and we've done a little research. I can't, tell you this for 100%. The only 24-hour trade room that we know of, and when I say 24-hour trade room, and I'll talk about this a little later, uh, there are 24-hour chat rooms that you can access and that are open around the clock. But we have the only one that I know of that is actually staffed and has moderators in the room around the clock to help you navigate these markets. Now, what we're going to focus on tonight is the area that I spend most of my time in, and that is the Globex session, which starts at 5 o'clock in the evening and goes till 3 or 4 in the morning. Technically, it goes till the U.S. opens at 8:30 in the morning, and all the times, by the way, that I will refer to tonight are Central Time. One, because that's the CME is on Central Time, and two, I am located in a Central Time zone, and so it just it makes it easier, even though we have people from around the world in our trade room, from Australia to Canada to Europe. We have quite a few folks in the Asian part of the world. So we try to standardize, if you will, the room by, using the central time zone here in the U.S. All right, so before I go too far, and I can determine how we can best spend our time together, because my goal tonight is to clear up some of the misunderstandings or mysteries of the Globex, talk a little bit about our approach to the Globex, why it's important that you kind of understand or at least know how this market works in basic terms. And if I can help you with at least, one thought or process or indicator or trade system that'll make you a better trader, then our time has been well spent together tonight. But how many of you have traded futures, and how many of you have traded futures in the Globex? Because that will help me determine which direction we want to take this conversation tonight. Okay. Well, that helps. That a goodly number of you have traded futures, and quite a few have traded after hours or in the Globex. If you've put in a futures trade after 5 o'clock Central Time, then you've traded in the Globex. Now, uh, and I think I can say this with a degree of confidence. If you've never traded futures and you want to learn how to trade futures, and because I've been doing this, again, as I said earlier, longer than probably anyone you will meet or talk to in this time frame of trading at night in the Globex, it is the best place to learn how to trade futures because it is a much easier market to learn. It's more of a trending market, and you don't have the high frequency trading programs that you have during the day that create so much volatility in the market. And because it's a slower market, you can use, smaller stops, and smaller stops, of course, equate to less risk. So I have found in my experience that if you want to learn to trade futures, the Globex is the best place to learn. Most find the Globex to be somewhat confusing, and I think it's just the opposite. I think it's a much easier market to understand. Yes, you have to know a little bit about, what's going on in Europe during the European session and what's going on in Asia during the Asian session. I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. But, it's very easy and it's not complicated whatsoever. And, easy is what we all want. We want easy. We want less complicated. We don't want complicated, charts. In fact, we have some folks that use Murray lines in our chat room. And, that's a complicated math system, but they do well with it. And, but we try to keep it simple when we're trading futures. Now, I will also tell you that, and I don't know why this is, but if you don't at least have a basic understanding of the Globex or follow it in some terms, if you believe that we're in a 24-hour marketplace and that we're in not only a global economy, but what happens in China affects the U.S. and what happens in the U.S. affects Europe. What happens in Europe affects what happens in Japan. So we all know and we all feel like we're in the global economy now, and it's important to understand what's going on in that global economy and the global marketplace. And I'm not sure why this is, but if you go back and you really think about all that affects our markets when you get up in the morning and try to figure out what's making the markets go up or down, 90% of the time it's what's taking place in the Globex at night while we in the U.S. are sleeping. So that's why we think it's extremely important that if you're going to be a trader or manage your own investments, you at least have a basic understanding of this market. Now, as I was about to say, I'm not sure why it just seems to happen this way, that the events that take place in the world economy and the world markets that affect our markets seems to happen, again, while most are sleeping in the U.S. And you can go back and start with the big ones that come to mind, are the irrational exuberance comments made by Greenspan. Uh, we were trading that particular night, and we were long the S&Ps, and this is the big S&Ps now. They didn't have the minis at the time, and we didn't even know Alan Greenspan was speaking, and he was speaking at some bankers conference in Europe, unbeknownst to us. And of course, we're trading, and we're up a couple of points on a long position, and he makes that irrational exuberance comment that some of you probably are familiar with or heard him or heard throughout history. When he made that comment, the market just turned around on a dime. And of course, it was a very costly and expensive night because we were, as I said, long. Even though we had stops in, it ran through our stops. And then you had the Lehman event, which, triggered the crisis in 2007, 2008, which started all that debacle that we're all now familiar with. I never will forget that. Started to break on a Sunday early around 5 o'clock, and then the news about Bear Stearns, possibly going under. And I'm not going to go through that history, but I think most of you know it now. And that was an interesting night in itself. Then you have, tsunamis in Japan. You had, of course, the off and on crisis in Greece and other countries of the Eurozone. You have, the Ukrainian situation in Russia, and I can go on and on and on. So the point I'm making is that again, this happens, on a fairly regular basis, and it always seems to happen when, again, most in the U.S. are sleeping. And so it's an interesting market to be a part of. All right, as I said a few minutes ago, the Globex or CME has been around since the early 90s. And the market, and for those of you who are traders, and if you've felt like your market trading day starts at sometime early in the morning around 8:30 in the U.S. Central Time, well, as traders, as futures traders, I will encourage you to think differently, because the trading day really starts at 5 p.m. So Wednesday's trading started at 5 o'clock tonight, not 8:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning. And that's the way we encourage the folks who trade in our room to look at it. So we start at 5 o'clock in the evening, and I go till 3 or 4 in the morning, depending on whether we're in a trade or not. And then we have Harry, Dirty Harry, who comes on well, first we have Dr. Frank, who comes on early in the morning, just kind of recaps the markets for everyone and what's going on. And then Harry starts calling trades around 9:30, I believe. Dirty Harry. And then we have Scott, and then we have John Anders. John Anders will call trades on options and credit spreads, and he comes on after lunchtime. So we are, again, literally a 24-hour trade room, which goes hand in hand with today's 24-hour global marketplace, and we think that's important. All right, as I said earlier, it's a great place to learn to trade futures. It's a great place to trade futures because, again, it's a slower moving market at night. It's a better trending market at night. You don't have these high frequency trading programs. I'm not going to sit here and tell you there aren't computers operating, at night, because there are, but they're not the high frequency trading programs that so many of us have come to learn about that operate during the day. And the main reason is you just don't have the volume at night to operate these high frequency trading programs. As many of you know, these quant models that have been created by these quants or mathematicians, as we refer to them, requires a tremendous amount of volume. They trade for, just pennies, and you don't have the volume at night that will satisfy these models that these quants have developed over the years. And we have spent, and I have spent, I should say, pretty much the better part of my lifetime in the financial markets, creating signals and trade signals that only work at night. I'll talk about those in a few minutes as well. So if you have less volatility, if you have, a better trending market, you can use tighter stops and less risk. Now, while I'm on this particular subject, I will tell you that tonight we shorted the market. Well, the plan was to sell 73 and a half. I put that out just before the markets closed at 4 o'clock to sell the S&Ps at 73 and a half. Most got filled at 73 and a quarter. They've been down to 71, and most took half their positions off. They're still carrying the other position, and now it's 2074, so we're down slightly on the remaining half and up 2 points on the other half. So if you want to follow along, that's where we are in our position tonight. Okay, now I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but most of you know, and if you don't, you should know that the Globex, in addition to being able to trade and speculate, is also the only place where you can hedge a portfolio, as I said earlier, talking about those events that take place, that seem to take place while the U.S. is sleeping. But let's say you go home and you're fat and happy with your portfolio and things are going well. Then all of a sudden we get one of those news events that I mentioned earlier, or one of those events that we haven't thought about. Here of late, it's been news about China and its industrial production and its slowing. Devaluation of the yuan are some that come to mind. And then you say, uh-oh, looks like this market that I'm happy and it seems to have a profile that I'm comfortable with, and it's in a trend that I'm comfortable with. All of a sudden, the game has changed. Well, the Globex is the only place where you can go and hedge your portfolio. I'm not going to go through, the mechanics of this, but just know that if you aren't aware of this, this is the only place where you can go and hedge your portfolio using futures contracts. And generally speaking, 1E mini S&P will hedge about, $50,000 to $60,000 portfolio, depending on how volatile and what kind of volatility you have in your portfolio. So it is also, in addition to being able to trade in the Globex and, to learn what's going on in the markets to give you a better feel for how you'll trade during the day, it is the only place where you can actually hedge your portfolio if you feel the need arises. Okay, I think most of you, I don't want to spend too much time based on the answers that I got when we first started. I think most of you know that you can trade, through most platforms with $500 in your account. And if you want to carry one home overnight, you're usually going to have a margin. You will usually get a margin call around $5,000 in that area. So again, we're going to talk a little bit about the Globex, how it's different, how we approach it, and how we try to navigate this market at night, and hopefully, as I said earlier, hopefully I'll make a comment or talk about an indicator that we use or a system or a trade thought that'll help make you a better trader. So we're going to try to cover key market times, proprietary signals and indicators, Greek-isms. I'm sure you may be scratching your head, but if you haven't figured it out now, I'm a third generation in this country, full-blooded Greek, and the term Greek-ism has been given to some of the broad signals that I've developed over the years that we use to trade this market at night. And while I'm on that, I will tell you that, and I'm fairly proud of this, not fairly, I'm very proud of this. I think we have one of the most social and friendly chat rooms that I've ever been a part of, and I've been a part of a lot of chat rooms in my day. The members in our room and our moderators will go out of their way to help you understand the markets, but they like to give each other nicknames, is why I'm bringing this up, and that's where the Greek-isms came from, that again are just signals that we use to trade the markets at night. I'll talk about a few of those. There's some 15, 16, or 17 of them, so obviously we don't have time to go through each and every one of them tonight. And I'll spend a few minutes talking about money management. Now, this is the where I find most traders have a weakness is in their money management system. And this is one of those comments I will make that I hope stays with you after we're done tonight, that if you do not have an efficient and disciplined money management system, you're not going to get consistent results, and it just doesn't work, for you to have a good night one night and then give it back, the next night. If you don't have consistent results, then you're just spinning your wheels, and that's what we're all here trying to do. And I will say that if you do not have a disciplined and efficient and effective money management system, I find it very hard to believe that you're going to have consistent results. At least I've never seen anyone that has. So I'm going to stop here for just a second and take whatever questions you have on anything we've talked about or anything you have up to this point. So let me see. I want to go back here and try to pick up a few of these questions. Give me just a minute to catch up on some of these. The question is this webinar being recorded? Yes, it is. Jim, you used to be a member of the trade room when we had West Coast Roy, and no, we haven't been told if West Coast is going to return anytime soon, but he is doing some webinars on how to use the point of control and Murray lines. He'll be doing some webinars on some Saturdays for us. So right now he's only involved with us on Saturdays. All the times, Fader T, 5 p.m. Central, all the times that we're going to use tonight are again Central time zones. Dennis, are there fees and restrictions to trading the Globex? No, there are no restrictions. You can trade the Globex, as I said a few minutes earlier, Dennis, as long as you have at least $500 per contract in your account. I recommend you have at least $2,000 or $3,000 if you're going to trade one S&P contract. Then if you want the flexibility of being able to carry one home overnight, then you'll want to have at least something north of a few $1,000s if you want to, carry a position home overnight. John, is the T-bond a good instrument to trade overnight? And is it easier to trade than during the New York session? I would say the bonds are easier to trade at night. I think the S&P is much easier to trade, obviously, than during the day. The bond is slightly easier, but not to the extent that the S&Ps are. And we do call some bond trades at night, but not often as we would like to. Let's see, I haven't, one month we had 4 or 5, maybe a half a dozen bond trades, but we didn't have any last month at all. Doug, it depends on your platform, but generally speaking, if volatility is not out of hand, it usually costs $500 per E-mini contract to trade at night as it does during the day. Now, some platforms have raised the margin requirement. So they've raised the margin requirement, because of the volatility at night. But I think most of them have gone back to the regular $500 now to trade the mini S&Ps. Okay, let's see. Greg, do you trade every night or only nights? We trade generally every night. I can't remember the last night we didn't have a trade, and we usually average 2 to 3 trades a night. As I said, tonight we sold 73 half at the close, bought half of them back at 71, and we're sitting on the other half of the position. What type and time charts do you use? Doug, we do not use charts at night, although I do use them during the day. And most of the charts that our moderators use during the day are the Renko bars. What is the cost to join your live trading room? I'm going to talk about that at the end of the slide. So if you'll hold that question for then. Marco, if you're referring to due to low liquidity, aren't there problems in case of a catastrophic event? I'm not sure what you're asking, but the volume at night has been fairly light during the holidays, but there is not a liquidity problem at night, and I haven't had one in years. Raul, if you put ES mini trade on during the night session, do you need to increase the margin? If you put a trade on at 5 o'clock in the evening, guys and gals, again, this is Central Time. Generally, with most platforms, you can put that contract on with the $500 in your account, as long as you're out of it by 4 p.m. the following day. That's, you can get into it by 5 p.m. For example, tonight, and as long as you're out of it by 4 p.m. tomorrow at the close of trading, you will not have a margin call. Are the moderators trading in their own accounts? 3 of them are. I'm not sure about the others. Bill, so you trade mainly at night, but also you host some New York session times as well. I do not call any trades during the day, but I do obviously am involved at night in from 5 p.m. till about 3 or 4 in the morning. Your volume is echoing. Does anyone else have an echoing problem? If so, you may just, Richard, you might want to log out and log back in. It looks like it's just on your. Pat, how many points do you average a night? That's a hard one to answer, but I would say, without going back and look at the trade log, 2 or 3 or 4 points at night, because again, we get in a position and we stay in it longer than you might during the day. Okay, so let me move on so we don't run out of time. You may want to make note of this because we find this very helpful. We break the trading session into basically 2 sessions. You have the Asian session that starts at 5 o'clock. That's the one we're in right now and goes to about 12 a.m. in the morning. And the controlling markets during that session are the Hang Seng and the Nikkei. Some of you may ask, well, why don't we follow the Australian markets or South Korean markets or other markets that trade during this time of frame? And the answer is that we're only looking for those markets that move or affect the S&Ps. And again, I have found in my years of doing this, it's the Hang Seng and the Nikkei. And the Nikkei opens at 6 p.m. Central Time, and the Hang Seng opens at 7:15, and they trade till just about, both of them trade somewhere around 11 till midnight. Those are the markets that will move the S&Ps from, say, 5 p.m. till midnight. And once we get into midnight, past 12 a.m. in the morning, the controlling markets are going to be the DAX in Germany. Obviously, the DAX because it's the largest economy in Europe, and to a lesser degree, the FTSE because it's still an economic trading center in London, as most of you know. So we follow the DAX and the FTSE after midnight because those are the controlling markets that will affect the S&Ps. And during the course of the night, as I said earlier, you will have news that takes place just like we do during the day that can move the S&Ps. And, we have a schedule of that in our trade room, so it's easy to know and follow when this news is coming out and what to expect and what we may do to trade that news. China GDP or PMI, IFO in Germany come to mind. Manufacturing numbers out of Europe and of course, out of Asia, particularly Japan and China. I mean, guys and gals, I really want you to think for a minute. 5 years ago, you didn't care about, maybe even 3 years ago, you didn't care about the manufacturing numbers or GDP numbers coming out of China. But today you better know because they will spill over into other markets, such as Europe, that will spill over into the U.S. and affect how the U.S. at least opens. Maybe not trade the whole day, but, spills over and will affect how they trade. All right, now these are some of the other markets and times. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide that we follow during the 24-hour day in our trade room. But the key market time that we're going to talk about tonight is my time frame and the Globex. That's what we're going to focus on. Is from 5 p.m. till 3 a.m. in the morning. Sometimes we'll go past 3 a.m. Sometimes we may finish up 1 or 2. Just depends on what the markets are doing. But I guess if I say anything tonight that I think is important, if you believe that we're in a 24-hour marketplace and that we're in a global economy, which I think most of us do now, I have been preaching that and talking about it for I don't know how many years. And in a 24-hour market, the Globex is roughly 17 hours. If you buy that, then you're leaving some 17 hours of very valuable information on the table that you could be using and taking advantage of to help your trading. For example, last night we got long at almost the low of the night. We don't do that every night, of course, but last night we got long around 2048. Actually, the fills were 48 and a half. And we talked about today being an up day because it's the end of the month and you have portfolio managers doing their thing that they normally do at the end of a quarter, particularly at the end of a year is when they do it the most. So we thought today would be an up day. We got long last night at 48 and a quarter, 48 and a half for some of the fills, as I said a few minutes ago. And most took their profits after a few points, but if you held on, you had a great day. So there's just an example of an opportunity last night. You could have gotten long at 48, 48 and a half, 48 and a quarter. This morning, if you waited, you had to wait to get a fill that was in the 60s, depending on when you tried to get into the marketplace. So there's almost some 15 points that you could have taken advantage of before the markets ever opened by being involved with this market at night. Now, I know a lot of you're listening to this and you're saying, Bill, I can't stay up all night. I have a job. I have kids to take care of. And we know that. We understand it. Even if you're retired, it's tough to stay up at night. Or if you're just a professional trader who trades around the clock, it's tough to stay up. So that's why we created the 24-hour trading room, so you have the flexibility to trade when it's convenient and to trade with those moderators and their styles that suit your way of trading. Now, proprietary signals. And we're going to talk a little bit about the indicators and what we look at and what we try to use at night that are different than the day. And one of those is pivot times and international markets. For example, you will see a pretty good move in the S&Ps sometime between 12:30 and 1 a.m. in the morning. It's one of my favorite times to trade, and it's usually one of the more volatile times because it's 30 minutes before the DAX opens. Well, you don't have to worry about that during the regular trading hours during the day about what the DAX is doing unless there's been some huge or tremendous news event that we don't usually see. But you don't particularly care about what the DAX is going to do or how it's going to open or the FTSE or the Hang Seng or the Nikkei for that matter, because those are important at night, but they're not important during the day. At night, here's one of my favorites. I will tell you that this is a primary indicator that we use at night. It's totally useless to you during the day, but at night, if you try to trade against this indicator, I'm telling you, you're asking for trouble. Is the depth of market or the dome or the matrix? Most of you have one of these on your trading platform. This is where you enter your orders. It shows, the levels of bid and ask. Usually it's 10 deep. And if you learn how to use this dome at night, it can become a tremendous advantage and tool for trading at night. But after 5 a.m. in the morning, it becomes fairly ineffective. So there is one primary, or two, if you will, examples of what you would look for and what you would use at night that you would not take advantage of during the day. Then we will look at other markets, even though we're only trading the mini S&P at night. But we will look at the bonds, the yen, the euro, whatever we can find that will help give us some sort of advantage or information as to which way the S&Ps are about to move. Now, a few minutes ago, we talked about these Greek-isms, which I said are just basic, signals and events that I have found occur on a regular basis in the Globex at night. My philosophy is that if you can find something that works 75 to 80% of the time, you should adopt it because you can make money and do well with it. So that's what these signals and events are. They're certain market events or signals that take place on a regular basis that I've identified that you can use, and they will help you make money 75 to 80% of the time. One of those, Greekism number one, and we see this a lot, is the Monday following options expiration, is usually up in the morning. There's still a lot of unwinding of positions and recalibrating positions after Friday's options expiration. And you'll say, well, Bill, why is that of value to trade at night? Because, you can trade in the Globex starting at 5 o'clock on Sunday night. And if you know that there's a high probability that the Globex, during the Globex session, is going to start to favor the up position or start to trend upward, because options expiration has a 75 to 80% chance of opening up Monday morning. That can help you with your trading position if you're trading on a Sunday night. Now, this one is one of my favorites. It's not necessarily what we had today, but it's close. This is where we get one of these overnight short squeezes. And I can't tell you, particularly on a Friday, how many times, we get bad news in the morning, we get a bad confidence number or a bad employment number. Here of late, of course, employment numbers have improved, but when we were getting some negative numbers. But the point I'm making is you have negative news in the morning. We've seen that a lot lately because of all the financial engineering that's going on in the marketplace. They seem to ignore some of these news events that take place. But you get a negative news event in the morning. Markets respond sharply to the downside, then they spend the rest of the day working their way back to the not just unchanged level, but even go, positive. They squeeze everyone who got short. Well, right at the close, we wait till maybe 10, 15 minutes right into the close, and we sell them. And that's what we did today. The high of the day was in the 74 and some change range. We waited till 5 minutes to 4, just before they closed at 4 p.m. Central Time. We sold 73. Well, I put a signal out to sell 73 and a half, but as I said, most were filled at 73 and a quarter. And then they opened down first 2 hours, or excuse me, first 20 minutes. They went down to 71. We took a profit on half the position, and we're still now holding the other half with stops at 75, 75, and the high of the night 75. Now they're back to 73, but we took 2 points, as I said earlier, on the first half of the position. All right, so that's an example of these Greek-isms that I was talking about earlier, so you can get a feel for what those are. And like I said, there's some 20 of them, and over time, I hope to be able to share them with you. Okay, now, before I get into money management, because I consider this very, very important, I'm going to stop here and take any more questions that you may have. Gershon, do I sell or lease the indicators? No, but you can get the indicators very inexpensively and use them for the rest of your life. I'll tell you about that in just a few minutes. Rob, how do you find trading oil at night? It is very, very slow at night, Rob, and very hard to really trade. Let's see. John, how much does low volume play into front running or stop running? John, I'm not going to sit here and tell you we do not have that, and there are times when it becomes a problem. But when we see, low volume, which we have seen the last 2 weeks, obviously because of the holidays, we're a lot more careful with our trades and use tighter stops. Let's see, I answered, I think, the question on trading crude. Mark, if you leave the room and come back in, it shouldn't be a problem. Fader, you asked about the Shanghai. We follow the Shanghai index, but the reason we put more emphasis, Fader, on watching the Hong Kong or Hang Seng markets at night is because if you'll remember, Hong Kong, of course, was a British possession, and most of the stocks that trade on the Hong Kong exchange are still of the Western capitalization system. And I find that you get a better read on what's going on by following the Hong Kong market than Shanghai. Shanghai, of course, is a mainland exchange, and it's a lot more volatile, and it's harder to get a read on it than it is, what's really going on in Asia. Excuse me, let me get something to drink here. I'm getting a little hoarse. Fader, what time does the DAX open? U.S. time. It opens at 1 a.m. Central Time. Now, it's important. I'm not sure why y'all are getting echoes. The only thing I can suggest is if you log out and log back in. We have one other, Janice, I think I said that right, was Richard. He was getting an echo. Not sure what's going on with that. Randy, what brokerage would you recommend? I'm currently using Ninja Trader. Ninja's good. We are a Ninja affiliate. Gain Capital, Thinkorswim. We don't have a particular. I use Gain Capital personally. Some of our moderators use Ninja. I do not have a preference. We do not have a preference because what we do in our room, we provide you with all the information in our chat room that you need. So we don't really care on what platform you trade. As long as you have a dome or a matrix style in your platform, which shows all the contracts, the bid and ask, as I talked about earlier, then that's all that's really important. And if you're happy with the fills and happy with the margin requirements and happy with your commissions, then that's all you really need. We don't particularly care what platform you use. Okay, Fader, you asked about the Shanghai. Is it more important than the FTSE? During the Asian session it is, which is from, again, 5 in the evening till midnight. Once you get past midnight, you get into the European session. then the FTSE and the DAX become the dogs that wag the tail, if you will. Mark, the echo is back. Silas, are you getting an echo? If you're still listening. Greg, you asked how many points that we use on our average stop loss. It's between 2 to 3 points. Drew, do you highlight hedging opportunities for managing against long portfolios? Don't generally point out hedges because we don't normally know who has portfolios and what they're trying to do with them. But if you were to ask a question about what you needed to do to hedge it, I'd be happy to help you. Marco, you're asking if we have managed accounts. We do. We started the managed accounts because they find that this Globex is fascinating. They like the concept and the philosophy of it, but they just can't stay up all night or do not want to try to stay up during the evening and enter orders when we're calling orders. So we have a system where we put in orders on your behalf. It's a little more aggressive and we use wider stops. In fact, I will put up a statement on the accounts that we have to that we file with the regulatory people that gives you the returns of that program. I'll put one of those up here in just a second. We do not have any automated systems for night trading, Rhett, but we do have the managed programs where we put orders in and we manage it personally. Richard, how about TradeStation? TradeStation works fine. John, you're asking me what is the opinion of interactive brokers? We have members in our room that use interactive brokers that seem very happy with it. Is there an indicator training? Doug, you're asking, is there an indicator training in the overnight market? And the answer is yes. The first Tuesday of every month, we have an in-depth class on how to use the indicators and how to use the trade room. Okay, let's see. I'm just about to the end of these questions. John, I have certain resistance and support levels. Like tonight, 75 is a overhead number or resistance number, so we're using 75 3/4 as our stop loss. Gershon, what is the necessary have monies in the managed account? It's $10,000 per E-mini contract that you want us to trade, and it is $150 a month. Let's see, are there any other instruments besides ES that you trade during the night session? Randy, we trade occasionally, I will call a bond trade, but my philosophy is learn one market, learn it well, and that's why we stick with the S&Ps. Now also, all the indicators that I have developed work best with the S&Ps and not as well with other markets because there's just not enough volume there to make these indicators work. Jeff, there is a recording of this session. Tucker, there's no licensing requirement to use our system. And Martin, you're asking me if I use market profiling. I do not at night, but the guys do during the day. Okay. Now, a few minutes ago, I made a statement that one of the biggest mistakes that most traders make that I have found is they do not have a disciplined or effective money management system. So let me tell you how we approach that, because by having a disciplined money management system, you also solve a lot of the mistakes I have found that traders make. For example, over trading. How many times have we're all guilty of this? Have we over traded? Trying to hit home runs. I think we all can say we're guilty of that. Now this one, this one may puzzle you a little bit. Not withdrawing profits on a regular basis. Now, I have found, just like any endeavor, when you try your best at golf or tennis or trading or whatever it is that you train hard to do and you try to learn a discipline or a system, if you reward yourself, in the case of trading by taking money out of your account on a regular basis, I have found psychologically, and it's strictly psychological, that you're more apt to do those things that made you successful. And if you're taking money out of your account, obviously you've been successful. You tend to do those things over and over and over again that make you successful, and therefore you should reward yourself. It's kind of like a Pavlov's dog, I guess you could say, in a way. But you're looking for a certain response for a certain stimulus, if you will, and taking money out of your account. I have found by rewarding yourself, again, you're more apt to do those things that made you successful and put that money in there to begin with. Now, here's the one that I find where most people really have a problem. And let me give you an example. How many times have you considered yourself to be a one S&P trader, one contract trader on the S&P, and you get behind on a trade, so you add a second one, and then you say, well, okay, if it was a good buy at 2050, and here it is 2060, like we saw today, you say, well, you know, um, if 2050 was a good short, then 2060 has to be even better. You sell a second one, and then it goes to 2070, and you sell a third, a fourth, or a fifth. Next thing you've had a huge loss. You can't take any more. You go ahead and you get out of the position. Now you've had a tremendous loss on 4, 5, 6 contracts, and then you spend the rest of your time trying to get it back with one contract. That formula, guys and gals, just is not going to work. And the way we solve this problem is that when you join our room, or if you don't join our room, I still suggest you do this, is the first thing you should do is set a goal. Now, everyone that's in our room is in there to supplement their income. If you're a trading cowboy and you like, to trade for the adrenaline or for the rush, you're probably not going to find, well, you can trade our room that way, but I'll say it again, just about everyone that's in our room that I'm aware of is in there to supplement their income. The very first thing we're going to ask you to do, and I suggest you do this whether you're trading with us or anyone else or just on your own, is you set a goal. So let's just say, because this is what we're going to use on this slide, your goal is to make $2,000 a month. You assume on most months, unlike the month of December, of course, and November, there are 20 average trading days in each month. That means if your goal is $2,000 a month, then it's real simple. You need to average, and operative word there, average $100 a day. Some days you're going to lose money. Some days you might make a little more than 100, but your goal is to average $100 a day. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's not hard to do that. You can make 1 point trading 2 S&P contracts. It's easy to do. At least we think it is. You make $100 and now you've hit your goal. And if you can do that on an average, as I said, because some nights you're going to lose money, like tonight, if you sold a full position at 73 and a quarter and you covered both at 71 and a half, you made $200 tonight and you're already ahead of your goal. Of course, we suggested that they keep half the position to see if it continued to sell off, which is yet to be seen. But I think you understand the point I'm trying to make. Set a goal. And if you set a goal, everything else falls into place. How many contracts you need to trade to reach that goal? What stops you need to use to reach that goal? You don't need a 10-point stop if you're trying to make $100 a night. A 2-point stop is adequate. You don't need to trade 10 contracts if you're trying to make $100 at night. You can do that with trading 1 or 2 contracts. So again, set a goal as to what you're trying to accomplish, and you reach that goal by saying, okay, if I want to supplement my income 2,000, 4,000, 5,000, whatever the number is, but again, using the example, if you want to supplement your income by $2,000 a month, then you need to average $100 a night, And guys and gals, when you reach your goal, what are you going to do? You stop. That's one of the hardest things to do, even for me. I can't tell you how many times I've reached my goal at night only to, go and give some of it back trading that crazy market during the day because it's become so volatile between the high frequency trading and all the financial engineering that's going on. I find it interesting that this year, in particular, has been the worst year for hedge funds in, I don't know, almost since they started. So again, I think you understand my point. You need to have a disciplined money management system, and you need to follow that and be very disciplined with it. And the way you do that is set a goal as to how much you'd like to supplement your income. By doing that, you back into the number of contracts you want to trade, the amount of risk you're going to take in stops, so forth and so on, and it puts a lot of things in place for you. Okay. Another tool which we happen to implement tonight in trading our system, as you've heard me say, we sold a full position or a full unit. That means if you're a two-contract trader, that would have been your unit. You establish everything in the form of a unit, and you don't change your unit. You always trade the same number of contracts at all times. That way you don't find yourself trading one contract one day. An hour later, now you're trading 3 or 4 contracts or 5 contracts when you're a two-contract trader. If you're not disciplined with your money management system by having the same number of contracts that you trade each and every time, you're going to find yourself in a hole that's very difficult to get out of. So let me say it again. Set a goal. Establish a unit. In that unit, now you have the number of contracts you're going to trade, the stops you're going to use. Everything else falls into place. And once you establish a unit, you stay with it. You do not vary from it. Now, down the road, you feel better about your trading. You gain more confidence. You want to increase your goal every month. Then you can increase the number of contracts in your unit. But once you establish your unit, you stay with it. So if your unit, and use tonight that we traded as an example, your unit is to trade 2 contracts. That's your unit. Tonight you would have sold 2 at 73 and a quarter. You took half the position or 1 contract off at 71 when they traded there early in the evening. You're still short 1 contract with a stop at 75.75. Okay, does everyone understand that? Because that's very important. Treat trading as a job. Learn the process. Minimize your risk. Don't overtrade. Reward yourself with a weekly or monthly profit from your account, like a paycheck. Now, this is an example of some of the indicators and what we provide you in our chat room. As many of you know, you can spend $30, $40, $50 a month now getting quotes, and you have to have real-time quotes to trade these markets at night, ladies and gentlemen. You have to have real-time DAX quotes, real-time Hang Seng quotes, real-time Nikkei quotes, and on most platforms that can be expensive, we provide all of those quotes for you in our chat room as part of the cost. So we can save you a lot of money in what you would spend on just getting quotes. But this is what our chat room will look like when you log in. On the left, you'll see, the quotes of the various international markets and domestic markets that I just talked about. On the right, if you're using charts, there's the Renko bars that I talked about earlier. So again, what we try to focus on, we keep it simple, are key market times, using the proprietary signals and indicators that I've spent, most of my lifetime developing. The Greek-isms or the signals that I spoke about, I gave you a couple examples of those, and then of course money management. It's simple, I promise you. It is not complicated. It's something you can learn. It's something you can take advantage of because I've seen it over and over and over again. And even if you're not going to trade in the Globex, you need to understand this market in basic terms and how it works. Now, the statement that you see in front of you, and this is the statement we have to furnish the exchange, a futures exchange. This is an example. There's a $20,000 account. This is one of the managed accounts. Someone was asking about that earlier. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. You can call the folks that handle this for us. They'll be happy to send you a copy of returns and statements that you need. But essentially, this one says if you started with $20,000, by March of 2015, you had $32,000 right at a year later. What is this? This started in May and went through March of 2015. Started in May of 2014. I think this same account now, this is a little old, is up to 36,000. But these statements are available to you. We're not going to just talk about returns. We're going to furnish you with, the facts and figures, because I know you hear a lot of chat rooms and they all make promises. Well, we can stand behind our promises. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. You're going to get your intro, because we have a library that you will never, or I shouldn't say never, you'll find it very in depth. I mean, you can spend a lot of time listening to webinars such as the one we have tonight. But these are recorded webinars, how to use the indicators, money management. And then we have courses. The first Tuesday of every month, we have a 2-hour course on how to use the 24-hour market, how to pinpoint trends, how to avoid the high frequency trading, finding good trade entries, low risk trade entries, targets and stops, useful tools and the indicators. But that's talking about the Globex. You also get access to the only 24-hour chat room. When I say only, that's staffed by moderators around the clock. You're going to get the Options 101 course that Dr. Frank Stanley teaches and does a very good job with. In fact, he's one of the leading options experts, around that I know of. So tonight, for $47, you get access to all the indicators for 30 days. You get a 2-hour course on how to use the indicators. We hold nothing back. We don't say, okay, buy this indicator tonight and then next month try to sell you another one. When you get this information, it's yours to keep. $47 for 30 days, just getting access to the 24-hour trade room and the trades that we call in itself is worth way more than $47. But we teach you how to trade in the Globex session in depth. You get the indicators. As I said, we hold nothing back. These are the traders you get access to. And I'll make this guarantee. If you join this room for 30 days and you don't learn at least one trading signal or one indicator or one event or one trading thought that makes you a better trader, if you don't learn at least one thing in those 30 days, you call me, we'll talk about it. I'll give you your money back. I know you will learn something that's going to make it worth your $47 and your time, because I've seen it over and over and over again. $47 for 30 days. If you like it, it works the way I say it does, and you want to stay in the room, it's $147 a month. And if you can find a 24-hour chat room that gives you the trading, the education, the information that we give you for $47 for 30 days and for $147 after that, let me know. I'll give you your money back again on that. You will not find a better value that gives you more trading, more education, more training than we do for $147 a month that I know of. I can't guarantee you there's not someone out there doing it, but I don't know about it. But if you find them, let me know. I'll give you your money back. Okay, let me finish taking any questions and we'll wrap this up. Ed, Can one make money trading from 7 to 11? Most of the trades, Ed, that we call are during that time frame. For example, tonight, the trade we call was at 4 o'clock Eastern time or Central time. Excuse me. Um, Lowy, I think I've said that right. Can you disclose the performance and cost of the managed accounts? I can. I just showed you a statement. If you'll email our support people, they'll furnish you with the statement. And how to use or how the managed accounts work. Okay, let's see here. Marco, so you propose to close the position once your goal is reached. Absolutely. Because chances are when you hit your goal, if you continue to trade, it's a high probability you're going to get some of it back. When you hit it, you quit. Or if you continue to want to trade Clark, that's what a lot of the folks in our chat room do. They switch to sim trading. Absolutely. Tucker, can you start with $2,000 in an account? Yes, you can. Raul, with a $10,000 account, you are trading one contract. At what point can you add another? Whenever you want to. It's $10,000 per contract. Marco, how much money should one have in the account per unit? If you're trading your own account, I would suggest you have at least $1,000 to $2,000 per S&P that you want to trade. Do fib indicators, Doug, work at night? Not in my experience. They do not. There's just not enough movement or volume at night to make the fib indicators work. Gershon, do I have a Skype handle? I do not. Do we support PayPal payments? James, we do not. We use First Data for our credit cards, which is one of the largest in the country. Marco, the results shown that I showed you earlier were during my trade window and not all day around the clock. Gershon, where do I find to learn the indicator files? You join the room for $47 are in our documents folder, or I will get into those first Tuesday of the month. When is the first Tuesday? I don't even know. I've lost track of time with all these holidays. But yes, you have access to them, and they're yours to keep. Carl, can a person sign up next week? Yes, but you're going to pay more than the $47. I think the 30-day trial is $67, I believe. Drew, how are the calls made? I usually make them verbally in the room. After 9:15, I type them in the room and make an alarm. I do not text our trade calls, Rick. We used to do that, and we found out when you send out a large number of texts, they don't always go out at the same time and get to people in a timely manner. And Martin, you asked, do we trade the E-mini? And that's 99.9% of what we trade, just the E-mini at night. Don't trade currencies. Every now and then we'll call a bond trade. Boyd, do we have a recording? The answer is yes, and you'll be able to access that later. They'll send that recording out. You can do all of this, Fader. I hope I'm saying that right. On Thinkorswim, the answer is yes. Doesn't matter what platform you use. We support all the platforms. Where do we go to pay? www.tradersden.24.com. It's on the bottom of this slide. And I'll leave that up for a few minutes. John, I recommend Gain Capital. They have reasonable margin rates. You can just Google Gain Capital. Greg, the results that you saw are based on one contract traded. No, I'm sorry. That's two contracts. I take that back. After $47, Rob, what is the billing policy? After the $47, the 30-day trial automatically renews at 147 unless you give us a couple of days notice and say you want to opt out. Clark, won't we have much higher margin requirements to trade while the cash markets are closed? No, the margin requirements, it depends on your platform, are generally the same at night as they are during the day. Right now, I know Gain Capital is charging 1,000 a night per contract instead of 500 during the day, which to me seems like it should be the other way around. Paulus, you shouldn't have $1,000 loss at night if you're using, a good stop management program. I mean, I wouldn't. I don't. I would. I don't think you're going to have a. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. That's $100. If one's goal is to make $100 a night, and the first trade is $100 loss, what next? Well, you make another trade, try to get some of it back, or you stop. Ed, all right. Am I suggesting that you do not trade the E-minis during the day at all? First of all, and do my indicators work during the day? My indicators do not work during the day, and we have moderators who call E-mini trades during the day. What I'm saying is I think it's easier to make money trading E-mini at night than it is during the day. I trade myself during the day, but I find it harder to make money during the day than I do at night. Um, your question is, with a full-time job, can I make good use of the first month and then ongoing basis? If you have a job and you work during the day, then this is absolutely the best time for you to trade is at night. John, you not only get access, your question is for the 47, do we get access to recorded webinar and how to use the indicators? Not only do you get access to the recorded webinar and how to use the indicators, I also teach a 2-hour class first Tuesday of every month on how to use those. But you can go into the documents folder or our library and hear recordings on how to use the indicators, money management, and that way you can listen to them at your leisure. You can, Hasu, I hope I'm saying that correctly. It means trading in the evenings only. That's up to you. We have a 24-hour chat room. You can trade for an hour in the morning. You can trade at night, again, whenever it's convenient. Ted, I have an options house account. Is that okay? No, not unless they allow you to trade futures. Now, again, we do call option trades, but that's after lunch. But you can't trade futures in an options account unless your platform allows both. Jay, just signed up. See you in the room. Well, thank you, Jay, and we look forward to having you in the room. Drew, IB is around $5,000 at night. Drew, I'd find another platform. Paulus, did you say that the um, indicators don't work during the day session or don't work as well? They do not. My indicators that we use at night do not work well during the day. You would not want to use them during the day. They're just not going to be efficient. Doug, what is a typical stop on an E-mini? It's usually about 2 to 3 points. Tonight our stop is 75.75, and we got short at 73 and a quarter, to give you an example. And now they're back to 71.75, and the high is 75. So far our stop is held up tonight. Raul, what has to happen for you to lose money in your account than your account balance? I'm not sure what that question is. If you'll re-ask it, Raul, I'll try to answer it. Doug, what is the average length of trades? Well, tonight we got in at 4 o'clock, just before the close, and we're still in half of it. So we're still in this trade tonight. Sometimes it could go 10 minutes. I've gotten in and out of a trade in 10 or 15 minutes. SS, I think what you're asking me, which session is more active? Definitely the European session. As you go through the night, they get more and more active, especially as you approach the U.S. opening. Gershon, what do the indicators look for overnight? That's kind of a lengthy answer, but basically we use our dome. We try to determine what the other international markets are doing. We use pivot points. Those are some of the basic indicators that we use to find a trade, and support and resistance numbers. Do not use charts at night. Any idea of past results? Yes, Marco, we can furnish you with statements on past results. Can you trade with Forex? Yes, if you have an account, but we do not call any Forex trades. Okay. Okay, Rob, I missed when you were speaking about contract size. What size do you suggest for the overnight? The overnight market, Rob, you can trade efficiently with a few $1,000s. If you want to trade one E-mini, you can do that efficiently with $5,000 in the account. You can do it with $2,000. It just depends on how you trade. But you certainly don't need a $50,000 to $100,000 account to trade one or two contracts. Paulus, would the membership be beneficial if I can only trade between the hours of 5 and 10? Absolutely. Like tonight, it's just like I said, tonight you could have made $200 in the first 30 minutes. Well, Clark, we look forward to having you, and I'll say it again. If you join for that 30 days and you don't learn something in that 30 days, I'll give you your $47 back. But again, I'm confident you will not find a trade room, a chat room, that gives you more than we do for the money. Ed, what does one do? That's a good question, Ed. What does one do with an open trade when you have to go to bed? You can do, you put your stop in, or you can do, an OCO order where one cancels the other. It's very easy to do on most platforms. So let's say that you're short, like tonight, from 2073 and a quarter, and you need to go to bed. You put an order in to buy it back at 2070, or stopped out 2075.75, whichever one it reaches first. And then when one order gets executed, it cancels the other. So it's very easy to put an order in and go to bed. People do that all the time. I do it. Marco, how long is the offer valid? I think they keep it available for 48 hours, I believe. The marketing people do this, but I think that's what they have it set up to do. When will the room be available after sign up? I think it's immediate, John. In fact, I know it is. All right. Any other questions? As I said, I hope I said at least one statement or made one statement or said something tonight that gives you some thought or helps make you a better trader. Does Thinkorswim provide real-time data at night? Yes. But I think you have to pay for the quotes because all of them charge for quotes now. If you're on the 30-day trial, Gershon, it will renew at $147 a month. John, we start at 7 p.m. Central Time the first Tuesday of each month. And we'll go for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I will, talk about our indicators, how we look for trades, all of the signals, everything. I do not hold anything back. If you decide after 30 days this isn't for you, whatever you learned, whatever information you downloaded or copied, it's yours to keep. Gershon, the best way to contact me is by email. Now, as you can imagine, I get a lot of emails, so don't feel bad if I don't respond immediately. And I'm typing my email in as we speak. We have two support teams. We have one in the Ukraine. They're up at night while the folks in the U.S. are sleeping. Then we have a U.S. support group. So we have on our website, it tells you how to email our support group. Most folks go through them. If they can't answer your question, they'll forward it to me. And you can ask questions in the chat room. If you have something you want to ask me, I can private message you and we can talk about it in the chat room. We have a way of private messaging in the chat room where, you and I can go to a little secret place and talk, just the two of us. All right. For those of you who are going to join the chat room, I will see you there shortly. For those of you who I may not see again, I hope you have a wonderful and happy and prosperous new year. John, can I download the training videos after I sign up for easy access? Yes. Janice, I hope I'm saying that right. Look forward to seeing you. Should you wait? Hasu, I'm not sure how to answer that question. That's up to you. But if you want to get in the trade room tonight, you have to put in your credit card so you can get a password. If you have, Richard, a platform that's giving you quotes and they're not charging you, then, and your commissions are, less than $5.50, because a lot of times they don't charge you for quotes, they nail you on the commission. It's which one do you want? It's just a matter of whether you're happy with your platform or not. John, look forward to having you, sir, in the chat room. All right, guys and gals, again, I thank you for your time tonight. I hope I said something that will help you with your trading and or investing. I think you'll find this Globex market to be extremely interesting. I know I have, and I've been doing it longer than probably anyone else you'll meet or talk to.